Hi guys, welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today's another day for a cool interview, and I have got a fellow traveler with me, Camela Eames, who is out there, like me, to make this world just a little bit of a better place. And her focus is what is closest to my heart, is sobriety and how to get there. And she's helping shitloads of people out there. And so we need people like Cammie so much. So Cammie, thank you very, very much for coming onto my show.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having me on. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's beautiful. So Cammie, it is lovely to meet you. And I'm quite excited to explore your story, because the story always starts with the hero coming to a point where there is a choice to be made. And it's that actively making the choice which makes the hero film, the hero journey, so exciting. It is every film that you watch that gets you is the hero might be initially quite reluctant, but then finally he says, enough is enough. And that's when the quest begins.
Exactly.
What was the Cammie like that said, nah, I'm quite comfortable, I'm quite happy? How did that go for you?
Well, the Cammie that I honestly, Stefan, I drank for 30 years, okay? I currently live in New Orleans. I've lived here for 26 years. And I never pictured my life without alcohol. I never could imagine it. Even though I had hit so many rock bottoms before, it still was never enough to quit. It was only when I decided that I deserved better in my life, and I decided to get my training with life coaching through Martha Beck, was when I said enough is enough. So when I decided to quit, I wasn't rock bottom at all, because I had been to so many rock bottoms, and that didn't propel me to quit. But when I decided to quit was when I wanted better for myself.
Which is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I live miles away from New Orleans, and the only thing I've got to maybe know a little bit about it is sort of your tourist brochures and CSI New Orleans. And it seems to be that the party is going in New Orleans all the time. And with party, unfortunately, comes alcohol. So is the picture that I have got in my mind realistic? So people indeed everywhere playing the saxophone and playing the instruments and having one picture after the other of yummy things.
Actually, it is. In the French Quarter, and I lived in the Quarter for about 15 years. Yes, you can walk down any street, you hear jazz music. Bars are 24/7.
Right.
So you would walk into a bar at night and leave the next morning or the next afternoon. You'd walk in, it'd be dark. You'd walk out, it's daylight. Yeah. So that was my life for many, many years. Just in dark bars.
And it is a beautiful haze. I mean, I remember being in the scene in Heidelberg, and we would, go out. Then at some stage we would hit a nightclub. Then one of the bar owners that we knew would say, hey, come on, we go back to my bar, which was by now closed. So he would get us in a back entrance and put everything back on and said, come on, everyone throw a tenner over the bar, and the drinks are now, just flowing. And, we had good times, bloody good times.
Yeah.
Typically, you can't remember the end of it. And the next day, you don't even want to talk about hangover, because that is a new generation of hangovers. But like that was my life as well.
Right.
Bloody hell. But in all fairness, these were actually times that I would say were actually not so bad. That was still a time when I actually enjoyed alcohol. There was, yeah, the hangovers were there, but I was still young and I was still able to function in a far better way than I would be later on. So
Right.
it is one thing to still have a few benefits from the alcohol, losing your shyness, losing your inhibition, losing whatever is negative, the kind of effect when sort of the second and third class hits you. Sort of there are the advantages at some stage in your life. Well, it's intriguing that you tell me that there were already rock bottoms there, and yet you still kept going.
I still kept going.
Uh,
Because I didn't know any other way to live. I really felt like, you just get trapped in your own thinking and you don't realize that there's other possibilities for you. You know what I mean? Like you just think, this is it. This is my life. This is how I'm going to be. And you just don't, I couldn't see another future. Yeah.
And of course, we meet other people who are exactly the same. So alcoholics, we actually try to be in our tribe of other alcoholics. So instinctively, then when we look around, it all is normal. It is, hey, look, he's vomiting over the corner. Hi, see, that's normal.
Oh, yeah.
It's normal that okay. So you can just keep drinking, and
we normalize it so much.
Is it not?
Yeah.
Is it not? No, that is wow. That is We both have been in the same frame of mind and the same, life without limits as far as the alcohol was concerned. Did you ever do the maths? Did you ever figure out how much you spent on alcohol?
Oh, God. You know what? I have not. And that would be interesting to figure that out. It would be shocking.
Yeah. For me, It was conservatively $250,000 of just money for alcohol. And because a bottle of wine is here $15, something decent to drink. And I at least didn't want to have the Chateau de la Migraine, the worst of the worst. So I made sure I drink something that I had a chance of not so bad hangover. But 2 bottles of wine is a minimum. So that was $30 a day. Then I migrated to vodka. Well, a bottle of vodka on special offer, a liter bottle is $32 thereabouts. So it is all conservative figures. So because then, by the time you added it up, it's a whole house that I could afford just there, cash, no mortgage. There, just take it. Now give me the house. Had I not been drinking, and that's without compound interest and etc. So amazing. Goodness, so you guys out there, exactly. You guys out there, if you're still sort of enjoying a glass, then please don't get too upset if there's not too much money left at the end of the month, or that there's too much month left at the end of the money. Because let's mirror in front of your face.
Right.
So it was not the money that triggered you, and it was not another rock bottom. So what the hell was the catalyst? What made you change your mind?
So the moment that I said enough was enough was I was in Pismo Beach, California. I actually wrote a blog post about this called the one glass of wine I did not finish.
Wow.
And so I'm there with my boyfriend. We are at a meet and greet for my life coaching cohort. And at that, I always drank at dinner. Of course, I always drank anyway, but I always drank a glass of wine at dinner. And so I ordered a glass of red wine. And it had been a very emotional weekend anyway, with seeing everybody I was in training with and so forth. And I took a sip, and it was weird. It was just like, it just didn't go down right. And I looked around and I said, do you really want to do this, Cammie? Because one glass was never enough. One glass leads to 10 with me. I was a binger. I was a binge drinker. And that's when I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to go there. And I got back to New Orleans, and it was kind of slow. So I did indulge a couple of times when I got back to New Orleans, but then slowly but surely, I just no longer desired it anymore. I feel like we're all looking for feelings, right? For something to make us feel a certain way. So, and that's why you drink, or that's why you do whatever you do, right? I learned how to replace what I needed inside of me and not look for something external like alcohol.
And that is the most powerful way forward. Once you actually create a life that is so beautiful that alcohol really literally interferes with you experiencing the joy of your new life. That's exactly
Yes.
how I am right now. It's yes, there's always the temptation to drink, but to then have the next day a day of hangover that will not subside until the evening, that's a whole day gone.
A whole day.
Yeah, please.
Have you ever thought of how many days you've wasted, like hungover, or years that turned into years? Yeah.
Make that quarter of a century, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's about right, actually. That's about right.
Yeah.
Make it 20 years, okay? I'm clean and sober now 7 years, so therefore I need to give myself a little bit of credit, but it was a long time. It was a long time where alcohol was defining my life, and I defined myself as someone who has got a good social life, who has got a place where there is never no alcohol. And I wore it as a badge of honor. Yeah, there's always a drink at home here. Unless, of course, it's 3:00 in the morning and I've actually emptied every single bottle in the house and I'm crawling around the garage trying to think, is there any more hidden supply of vodka that I've got put away just for such cases? And it's just...
Well, that never happens in New Orleans because they deliver alcohol 24 hours a day. We would call like at 4 a.m. and get delivery of vodka or whatever else we needed. Yeah.
I must say then I was maybe a little bit on the lucky side today.
Yeah.
Crikey. But then again, it is only because there are limitations to the access of alcohol. No. If you look at the UK, where there is a cutoff line in pubs, etc., no. The drinking is just as hazardous and as brutal, and with all the consequences on the individual level as well as on societal level. So no, it is not about. It's not about accessibility. Although some people, of course, now would disagree with COVID-19. If you're stuck somewhere in a quarantine and suddenly for 2 weeks, like in New Zealand, and the people in the hotel where you're stuck decide, no, you do not get any alcohol. I'm sorry, for 2 weeks, because we can't have you being potentially COVID-19 positive and then rampaging through the hotel. So sorry, alcohol is no. And it's the same with South Africa, where they suddenly say, no, sorry, if you're pissed, you are not socially distancing. So no more alcohol for you guys. And you can imagine where that goes. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Anyhow. So this was our old life. Yeah. Enough reminiscing. Enough. Oh my God. Because sort of, at least I'm no longer feeling the guilt and the shame that I felt then. At least I'm no longer, I can now just talk about it and just mildly shake my head and think,
I just, don't you feel so much more free?
Oh,
I just
hell
feel
yes.
so free now. Like the more I live my life with intention and accountability and responsibility, I just feel so free instead of letting alcohol run everything. And I was on autopilot all the time.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Oh, please. So there we are. We changed our thinking. And in all fairness, you seem to have the insight, or seem to have had the insight on that pivotal moment, that meeting, that weekend there. For me, I needed someone to step in. And for me, it was my wife who organized a stint in rehab behind my back. So I was then in rehab where I got introduced to how to deal with my emotions. I got introduced to sober fun, to just talking honestly about what is going on. I was taught again the importance of looking after myself, of self-love, of these things. And that was a very, very, very foreign concept to me. Because by now I was so full of guilt and shame and embarrassment and all these kind of things, which then kept me drinking. And
exactly, it's a cycle,
isn't it? So, I mean, that is when I got introduced to a lot of important techniques. Now, you were trying to become a life coach whilst you were still drinking quite heavily. So you were introduced already at that time to certain insights, etc. So I guess to a degree, you had already done the work that then in your brain flicked the switch where you said, come on, Cammie, really? So you've been talking the talk, but look how you walk. You can't even walk, you stumble. So
fall down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess it's interesting to see that you settled the horse from behind, or I did, however you look at it. That is a different story. But the key message was that we had suddenly an insight, and there were suddenly people around us to teach us and to help us. So you had chosen that. I was chosen to get the help. And however it works, it doesn't matter as long as you get to meet the people who can make a difference for you.
I agree, yeah.
When you started your life coaching, most people don't just wake up one morning and say, you know what, I fancy becoming a life coach. There's always a little bit more to a story. So may I ask, may I scratch a bit away the paint here and actually say, well, what drove you to become a life coach?
So I had just left my husband. I have a daughter. So I decided he actually was drinking more than me, which is crazy. Okay. Which is crazy.
Don't comment.
Yes. I mean, yeah. So I was like, anyway, so I left him and decided to go back to school. And I wanted to get my master's degree in either psychology or social work. So I took some classes at Tulane University. And then I was seeing a therapist at the time. And she was like, have you ever thought about being a life coach? And she hooked me up with a life coach that lived in New Orleans. And I became friends with her. And then that became my journey. I started researching it and I said, you know what? This is more my style. This is more my style. So I decided to move forward with it and take the training. And here I am.
Which is brilliant. It is so something was already deep inside you saying, hey, enough is enough. I want to learn more about how to live a life that is not crushing me, into a little ball of desperation and hopelessness, but
Yeah,
rather,
and even when I was drinking, I always deep down I wanted more. And I knew that I was a late bloomer. I always knew I was a late bloomer and I wasn't going to do anything till much later in my life. I just had this feeling. And yeah, so.
see, I was a go-getter forever. But even in my darkest hours, I mean, there is not a Tony Robbins CD I had not listened to. There is not any of the big self-improvement coaches whose book I have not had on my shelf. And obviously I was searching as well, but the grip of alcohol on me was so much stronger than the conscious efforts to develop myself into a being worth calling a human. So it is, the alcohol is an incredibly powerful thing. And I don't know how to call it. It is so much more than just a liquid with some molecules in there. It becomes a demon. It becomes a living thing that reinvents itself and tries to tease you all the time. It is like a oh.
It's an entity. It's living, breathing. It's yeah.
It is.
It's alcohol is always more than alcohol. You know, it always represents or symbolizes more than alcohol. Like in each of our lives. That's what one of my clients, we were talking, and I said, "What does alcohol represent to you?" And for her, it represented freedom and independence. So it always represents something for each of us. Yeah.
And you can go back. It's so the alcohol is today something that is so much out there. If you go back several generations, you had women starting to smoke, and you would have given them, for them it was equally a sign of breaking the glass ceilings, of going out there and becoming the new you, redefining themselves. And so here you are. So we've got the cigarettes, we've got the alcohol, and the same applies to other lifestyles that people choose. There's always some good reason why that is. Now, most of the time, I would think it is trauma that causes us to drink, but sometimes there are secondary gains there, gains of. Yeah, I always keep saying, for example, the smoko. If you were to say in your working life, oh, well, I'm actually a little bit tired now. I think I would like to take 5 minutes and have a glass of water. People would look at you, let's say in an engineer shop or so, come on, you pussy, what's going on here? And if you were to say, well, actually, I need a smoko now, everyone would drop their tools. I come with you. And
right.
So here you go. So it's that kind of social engineering that
definitely
is so out there. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you. You described a beautiful point in when we sort of prepared for this interview. You were talking about the concept of self-love and sobriety being radical in Western society. What do you mean with that?
With the way society is structured, learning or embracing love within yourself and learning to love yourself. I feel like in Western society, we are taught to compare ourselves to others all the time, to compete, to what does your inner voice say? Most of the time, mine says some pretty bad things about me, right? I mean, well, this was before, it's like negative thoughts about yourself all the time. Also, as far as sobriety goes, why is it looked on as something unusual if you say you don't want to drink? And it is. You go somewhere and you turn down a drink, people look at you like you're crazy.
Is that still now? 80s, 90s, no doubt, even early
No.
2000s, but is certainly still in New Orleans society? And it's we need to say,
Yes.
we need to be careful
Yes.
here, because obviously we are talking about one bubble of experience. And so
Correct.
you are living in New Orleans, a large town, a large metropolis, really, isn't it? And in which a certain lifestyle is cherished. People go there to have that experience. So
Right.
maybe that is a little bit skewed in the expectations. But do you think that this kind of nearly sober shaming, that is reflective also of the whole of the American society?
I do. I do. Yeah.
This is, and indeed, then the next step, of course, is to say, well, America is America with quite a unique set of problems and issues. Let's keep that very broad. To compare that with Germany or to compare that with the UK or New Zealand is probably a bit more challenging. Yet, I actually agree with you that there is a certain tendency there to still hide, and the amount of shame, guilt, etc. that is out there is huge. It's not for nothing that we here in New Zealand have one of the highest youth suicide rates in the OECD. It is not for nothing that there are so many men in particular were affected with mental health problems here, because we are a very, very sportive culture. We are a masculine culture, hey bro, that kind of culture, and it goes
Right.
for every level of our society. So it is difficult to open up. And I guess that's why I'm doing these podcasts and YouTube videos, because it is so important. It's so liberating once you have spoken up and spoken out that you are in trouble. And it's so humbling to then see others who often you wouldn't have thought that they would be the kind step up to the plate and come out and are there to give you just the time of the day and to say, shall we have a coffee? Come on, tell me what's going on. And this is so mind-blowing when that happens. It's so beautiful. Yes. No, amazing. So radical self-love. What do you do about it?
So, for instance, we take care of the things we love, right? So think when you were drinking. I mean, there's no way you could love yourself. I mean, there's no way I loved myself when I was drinking that much or respected myself, right? I mean, I had to, and the funny thing is, you have it all inside of you. You just have to dig down, get rid of the walls, get rid of the barriers, and get to it. And it's an ongoing process. It's a lifelong process. And I am very aware now of my thoughts, of how I'm thinking about myself. I try to be very compassionate with myself now. And gosh, I mean, I was my own worst enemy, Stefan. Yeah, I was my own worst enemy.
It's weird to see your lips moving, yet my words are coming out. And so, same here. It is the amount of negativity, but it doesn't stop when you stop drinking. I think that is a pitfall of all of us in modern day society. I think that trying to keep up with the Joneses, that cliche is so ingrained with us that we need to look a certain way. It doesn't matter how old you are, you need to be in the gym. It doesn't matter what you feel like, you need to have kale with some certain other superfood. And if you don't have that, if you have a piece of cake, you better go into the corner, you shame, you failure, and it is that kind of thoughts. And if you think about it, when was the last time anyone really said to you, Stefan, you are a failure? No one really has said that to me for a very, very, very long time. I'm a go-getter. I'm an achiever. So yet I define myself as a failure. And now listen to that sentence again. I define myself as a failure. Where the hell is that coming from? Why are we focusing on this bloody negative? It is, and these thoughts are out there. If I could just somehow switch a button and get rid of these thoughts, that would be beautiful, but I can't. Yesterday, I had quite a dark day for a number of reasons, and the amount, an onslaught of negative thoughts. I could only see negative the whole day, and it was brutal, and it took a lot of work by myself to step out of myself, realize what's going on, put the camera up there and sort of think, really? What's going on here? And analyze, why do I feel so bad? Now, there were external reasons. Bloody well, yes. But most of it was going on in there. So I was my worst enemy yesterday, and it was brutal. But then again, I accepted it for what it was. And you just have to roll with the punches. You try not to make decisions in those states of emotions, in those when you're so dark down. You just need to accept, hang on, today you're not your best. And yeah, it was hard. It was really, really, really hard, guys. And here I am, 7 years sober. Here I am speaking to all these beautiful people out there. I mean, for Christ's sake, every time I do an interview, I've got an hour of therapy. You know, you can't be more active in your recovery than I am currently. Yet, there are still those times when my mind is just playing dirty tricks on me. And alcohol is nowhere to be seen. And it's still playing dirty tricks. So here you go. Cammie, there must be days like that for you too. What do you do?
Oh, definitely.
Or what do you tell your clients? How do you go about that?
So on the days, and I have been feeling down lately, I notice that every time I try to, if I'm doing something like kind of up-leveling a little bit in my business, that's when the inner voice, the inner mean girl comes out. And she's like, what are you doing? You can't do this. I mean, imposter syndrome all the way. And so
it's unbelievable, isn't it? It's exactly.
And this is the thing. You just have to, I have to stop it. I have to nip it, what I'm thinking. And I find journaling really, really helps me to get all of this onto paper. Just journal it out, all those thoughts, look at it, tear it up, throw it away.
I would recommend not to throw them away, because one day down the line, you will go back and look at what you wrote and you think, oh my goodness, really? And because your process of life is dynamic. The challenges change all the time, and you roll with the punches, or better, you duck and weave to block whatever is coming. And so I think it's well worthwhile, the journaling. I couldn't agree more, because if you think about it, when is it really that you write or that you express emotions out loud? I give you an example. The way I was drinking, it would have been something along the lines of, oh, look what you did. Look what you did to me. I show you. I will drink a whole bottle of vodka. I'll show you. So if you actually spell it out, then you hear the kind of bullshit that dribbles from your lips. Or when you write it down, suddenly you look at the sentence and you think, hang on. So
It sounds
therefore,
ridiculous.
exactly. But you need to do that.
Yeah.
And normally in our life, we don't take the time. We just respond on this subconscious level. Our reptilian brain just brings out these resentments, fears, weird things, and then our brain starts to somehow make sense of that. You feel threatened, you're full of fear, and your brain thinks, oh my God, there is something that kills us. Careful what you do. And suddenly there is this heightened level of adrenaline, of cortisol going on, all the hormones washing over you, and then that triggers other emotions and so on. So it's actually an amazing thing that happens. The problem, of course, is there is no bear behind you that is just trying to take a bite out of you, and there is nothing there. It is basically all happening in your head.
Yeah.
So you can't just take off the head or the top of the head and have a bit of light shining in. You need to express it in different ways. And journaling is so important there, because it's the one time that you actually are honest with yourselves. And hand on your heart, guys. Yes, you have got your best friend. And yes, you have a good chat with your best friend. Do you really open up to your best friend about your deepest emotions like that?
Inner world?
No, probably not to the degree that maybe might be of benefit. Although he or she may actually be in exactly the same boat. It never tells you.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I think all humans, we're all in the same boat. That's the thing. But everyone thinks that they're the only one. But we're all in the same boat.
So true. Okay.
I heard Martha Beck said, your most personal experience is the most universal. And I always found that fascinating. So your most personal experience is actually universal. So everybody as a human, everybody experiences this. Like your internal,
So true, Cammie. I couldn't agree more, actually. So guys out there, listen up. You're not alone. Okay? Yes, you have got some shitty days. And yes, your head is full of negativity. Welcome to the club. Same here. Same with Cammie. Same with every bloody life coach and psychologist and counselor you could ever meet. We're all in the same boat. We're all having this kind of little devils on the shoulders that just keep telling us how shit we are and how dare we actually try to be happy, as if happy and joy and love is a bad thing. How dare we? You have not deserved to be happy. And even now that I spell it out like that, you catch yourself and think, what? Why do I not deserve that? Because you don't. Hang on. I think you do. So let's change our attitude a little bit. Are there tricks that you recommend to your clients to change their attitude, to change that stinking thinking into some different framework?
Definitely, to be aware, if you don't realize there's a problem or you don't notice what's going on, you can't really change it. So be aware of your thoughts. I also tell my clients movement, dance, walking, running. I feel like it just shifts the whole energy, like all this energy in your body around you, it shifts it. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Exactly right. For me, I've often find that moment of active gratitude very empowering. That I did that yesterday morning, driving to work, and I was dark and gloomy, and I suddenly caught myself and thought, hang on, what's going on here? And immediately I went into speaking out loud. I'm happy and grateful that, and then I had to think for a moment, and then it came. So there was actually an active pause. Normally it all comes immediately there. But yesterday, because I was so gloomy, my brain was actually stuck in the same negative rut. So when I challenged it to say, I'm happy and grateful for, or that, it had to think for a moment. And then suddenly my brain obeyed and it came out with things to be grateful for. And suddenly there was this counterweight there against the negative thoughts. And that was actually what then really helped me a bit. And then shortly thereafter I arrived at work, started working, and it was a clinic day, so paperwork basically. And I found myself again not being 100% there. I was not mindful. I was not present in the present. My mind was going back and forth into the future and everywhere where it shouldn't be. And again, I had to stop myself and again had to sort of step outside of myself and see, what are you doing here? And one of my nurses came in and asked me something, and I must have looked at that moment quite perplexed because I had been just outside here. And she said, are you all right? And I just said, look, I've just seen this patient. I've done all the right things, the talking wise, and I gave him a really good care, but I've forgotten to let him sign this, and I didn't do that. And it was the little things where I thought, that's so not me. That's you know, I'm normally meticulous and everything is done and dusted and ticked. And here I done paperwork wise, I done 2-3 mistakes. And I just looked at my nurse and said, oh, today's not my day. And she just smiled and took the mick out of me. And that was cool. But it was that self-awareness. It was that stepping out of you and thinking, okay, this is a shit day.
Being the observer.
Exactly right. And then once I had that warning shot in front of the bow to actually say, come on, pull up your socks, then I stepped back and thought, okay, what's not right? Okay, you haven't drunken, so come on, glass of water, rehydrate. You haven't had your breakfast yet. Come on, here you go, have some porridge. And look at the basic things right. Give your body what it needs. Give it the security, get the basic level of your needs right so that you do not feel that at a subconscious level you have to fight for survival. Get all the basic shit right. And then you can work on your self-love, then you can work on the higher levels. But it was intriguing.
The hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it? And it is so powerful once you've figured it out. And we often completely forget about the lowest level of this hierarchy of needs.
The basics.
Exactly. So take care of the basics, guys. And if you don't know how to do that, well, have a look at my book, My Steps to Sobriety, because in there I've got a large section on the micro habits. And in the framework of AA, it would be sort of the step 7, where you sort of start to do amazing things, where you figured out why you do things, and now you're moving on towards sort of steps 5, 6, and 7, where you change your habits, where you make the magic happen, where you lay the foundations for your future life. Now, there are shitloads of action plans in my book that will help you. So if you don't know where to start, there are far worse places than there in my book. Otherwise, though, look around, because there are people around you who have been there, done that, and now live a different life. Learn from them. And, here we have got Cammie, just as she is a life coach. She makes a living helping people get out of that rut of alcohol dependency and helps them to build a life full of joy, full of passion. She redefines with you your vision, who you want to be. It would not be such a bad idea to actually make contact with her. So, how does it work if people are triggered by this interview and they actually want to say hello and get in touch with you? How does it work?
So my email is sobercoach@cammieeames.com. So you can get in touch with me that way. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's sober_Nola. Sober Nola.
Cool.
Instagram.
Cool.
Thank you.
And we're gonna put links to that into the description of this video and of this podcast, so you can just simply click on that. Now, Cammie, I know that you have got some exciting things out there in the sense of a teaching package and support packages there. Tell me about one of these packages there, because this is so necessary. People like you are so wonderful because you're literally changing lives. You're literally saving lives. But of course, that comes with a price, because Cammie needs to eat something too. There needs to be some bread and some butter on her table. So yes, there is some money exchange involved. Tell us a bit.
So I have a 4-week package, and it is called Sobriety and SelfLove. And every week we're going to do a bundle on a different topic. You're going to get to work one-on-one with me. We're going to have other women in the group as well. So there's going to be a community, a lot of support, a lot of accountability. And I do want to mention that I am also starting a membership site, a sobriety membership site for women. And I hope to have that up and running in September.
It's beautiful. But what happens if you have the odd Y chromosome floating around? So, do you take on men as well?
I've had one male client. I mostly have, it's weird. It's just like women are the ones that contact me.
Yeah.
I'm not against having male clients. Yeah.
And it's hard, and that it only shows actually that we men have so much more work to do, because self-love and just the sheer word self-love is nearly something that you want to spit out as a man,
right?
Because that's
it's not masculine.
That's
it doesn't sound masculine.
That's exactly right. And it just shows. And please, there's absolutely nothing wrong that you focus on women, because you guys are so complex. Women are just still, even after 54 years, they are still a miracle to me. So I leave them all to you. You just deal with them. so no, I think you need to be one to know one kind of a thing. No, Cammie, this is brilliant. So if there are any of you girls out there who are listening in and our discussion today has triggered you to seek help, there is always nowadays the possibility to actually link up with Cammie or other life coaches out there. It is, of course, more handy if you have someone in your own surrounding. If you can find someone there, and please, if Zoom is not for you, look around. You might be surprised who is out there in your immediate surroundings. And I guess come out of the shadows. Speak to your GP, speak to your family physician, and say, look, I actually would like to change my life. You don't need to go too much into sordid details if you're still ridden by the evil twins of shame and guilt. You can just say, look, do you know someone who is specializing in addiction and alcohol? Because I think I drink too much. And that, wow, you might suddenly find that there are 2, 3, 5 people out there that you had no idea about because you never dared to ask. But guess what? Guess what, guys? 20 to 30% of the population is stuck with chemical addiction. It's huge.
It's huge.
Third person around you is hooked. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
addicted. We're talking addiction. We're talking doing anything to get what you need, spending a lot of time of the day thinking about it, procuring it, using it, dealing with the aftermath of whatever poison of choice you have. And I'm talking chemical addiction here.
Yeah.
I have not even touched upon the emotional addictions, that behavioral, the eating disorders, all the other addictions that are essentially very, very similar to a chemical addiction. So guys, there's so much out there. You are not alone. Not by no stretch of the imagination. On the contrary, it's very, very likely that the person that you look up to and think, wow, he really got his shit together, chances are no whatsoever. Okay, so come out of your shadows, be honest, and begin that journey to find that self-love, which is one of the most beautiful, beautiful things you could possibly do. Oh. Cammie, I'm so grateful that you came today on, that you were so honest and shared your life story and the darker bits of your past that you probably would not like so much to be aired out. But I'm so grateful that you showed the humility and the backbone to come out, so to speak, and be honest, because it's a beautiful place to be, where we can look at our past and just shake our heads together and just laugh. And it is so different than when we were in that past.
Oh yeah, so different. Thank you so much. And it was my pleasure.
Look after yourself, Cammie, and you guys out there, make this day a day to remember. Make this day the day where you change your life just a little bit. Take that one step to alter your life, to think, actually, I have got some work to do. Let's do it. You can do it, guys. You can do it. Go out there and carpe diem. Live that day.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Dream on, dream